Let's go back to some of your upbringing. Some of you might have mentioned it, some might have not. Let's talk about what your parents actually did for a living. So we heard from Hannah, her mom was a nurse, but yeah, I often wonder about other musicians and what their parents actually did for a living that, were you influenced by them, whether in your current career or as a musician?
I mentioned it in my talk. My father was a farmer and a fisherman, but he was quite brilliant actually. He was able to build a house. He taught himself how to read and what have you. So it wasn't more like a musical influence as much as wow, that was amazing that he could do that. That actually helped me to become more confident myself. If he can do it, I can do it myself. How they encouraged me though was when they saw that. How they encouraged me was when they saw that I started drums in high school or junior high school. They immediately bought a drum set. They're like, whoa. I'm like, where did this come from? I mean, we couldn't even afford like certain things, but they felt that okay, you want to play music and it seems like you're excited about it, so let's get you this drum set. And I thought that was such an amazing gesture. I was blown by it, and as a matter of fact, because of it, I may have practiced harder than than I would have. Yeah.
I guess I can go next. Yes, I did mention that my mom is a family nurse practitioner. She's actually one of the providers that I endorse results to. But what you may be surprised to know is that when I was a kid, my mom was the first musician I ever knew. When she was in the Philippines, and she'll correct me about this later at home if I'm telling the story wrong, but there would be times when she would be sitting down to watch her aunts play guitar, and my mom would just sit there rapt with attention, just watching them and absorbing as much as she could about the chords and how the rhythms work and how to sing and play at the same time. And so being as little as she was, she couldn't exactly go out to the fields to work alongside them because she's still too small. But what she would do is that as soon as her aunts would leave, they would leave their guitars, she would pick up the guitar and then start trying to play the exact same things that they did. So her musical experience is not like mine. I was privileged enough to have both of my parents to work to support me, to put me through lessons and things like that. But my mom's experience with music was very hands-on, using her ear, right? So we would have evening worship at my house, and my mom was always the one who played piano. And I always considered it very much a blessing, and also kind of a taking up of the torch. The moment when I realized that, hey, that thing that my mom's been doing for 10 plus years of my life, I can do that now too. And so I started taking up the mantle and I started playing for family worship, and then that transitioned into me playing for church. And my dad is an accountant, and he's been very supportive of our endeavors as well. My brother and I both play instruments, and along the way, he's always been there, being a very proud dad, recording our anytime that we would have a performance at church. They've been very supportive throughout my whole life, and I'm glad that I get to spend my time here in Guam with them.
Great. My father was a carpenter. Sounds like something you'd read in the Bible, right? My father was a carpenter. My mom was actually a seamstress for a long time, and then eventually she became a housekeeping executive manager for the then Okura Hotel, which is today Loti. Yes. And their music, like I mentioned, was just out of passion. They love to sing and dance on their own.
I didn't mention about my mom. I'm so sorry. So my mother, none of my parents were musically inclined. None of them were. And some people argue drum is not really a musical instrument. but so one thing about my mom that was very encouraging was that she was very encouraging. Like, she would take me to every practice. She didn't drive, but she found a way to get me to practice. She'll ask a cousin, she'll ask my a sister or brother to take me to practice and to bring me home. So she made do with nothing, and she was able to encourage me to become the successful person I am. So, you can't say enough about mothers, and without mothers, what are we? Nothing really. So, amen to mothers.
Do we have any questions from the audience? None?
I have a question. Hi,
Hi, Miss Margie.
my name is Margie. Max and Mervyn and Alice and I, we've been working to keep the arts alive. What do you think? Because when there's a budget cut, it's always the arts that goes first. I mean, I've been out of school for a long time, but I feel that they think that that's a place to cut. So I don't know what we could do on Guam. I mean, I really feel that we have a lot of talented musicians, actors, singers, performers on Guam. We don't have a working performance center on Guam. I just feel like, is that something that starts from home? I mean, government is government. We can't really tell them what to do, but I feel like music and all the arts, I think they're very important to people in general. So what can we do to tell the people, the budget cutters, that this is not where to cut?
I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. I think Guam needs to support music. A great example of that right now is right here in Guam, Harvest Christian Academy. I mean, I have to plug the music program there. I'll tell you what. Both my boys are musicians, and my oldest boy is a very, very talented musician, thanks to the teachers at Harvest and himself, of course. But for sure, his piano teacher's right here, Miss Kelly Sharp. But that program right there, just the school program there, a lot of the kids who are musicians there are going into colleges, and they're going to great colleges. They're going to become doctors, they're going to become lawyers, they're going to become engineers. And that's a very good example of how music can help our community here. If we can get our children involved in music, I am absolutely sure they're going to be successful in their future. So yes, if there's any way that all of us musicians who are now professionals can get together and encourage our lawmakers, our Congress, whatever, to help with that, I think that's very important. And hey, I'm willing to donate myself to such a program. So let's start a nonprofit and get it going.
I'd like for us to think about a couple of things. I am a religious person. I believe in God. If you ascribe to the idea that we are created beings, that we have a creator, then one of the things that makes us most like our creator is the fact that we have the ability to create. I believe that very strongly. And in order for us to be able to continue to do that, we need programs like this. Because, and I want you to also consider this, the youth that we have today on Guam, what is it that they are doing with their spare time? If they are going out and partying, using recreational drugs, right? Or spending all of their time at home, scrolling on the internet, playing video games, doing violent things, right? Without the arts, without a way for us to have an outlet with which we can create, to put out into the world the things that are in our hearts and in our minds and in our brains, if we don't have a way to share the goodness of our hearts with the world, we become cogs in the machine. And that is what the arts provides for us. That is what it does for myself, for my colleagues, for parents who are proud to see their kids going out and doing something, finding a community, being part of these programs in our musicals, in our competitions and things, and providing, giving back to their communities in church and in the places that they grow up with. Arts programs are so important. They give our youth a chance to be able to say, I can be part of something instead of contributing to the problem. That is what I believe.
Thank you. As many of you know, that I'm a researcher also by heart, and there's power in data and numbers. And so like tonight's a great start of being able to capture, albeit anecdotal, it's not statistically collected, but there's power in numbers and there's research out there. I just actually went through one and describing how the power of music and how it has really influenced the world of therapy. And anyways, so research is one. We need to be able to get that data, but we have to carry that data to a place where action can be taken. And there's going to be two places, in my opinion. It's going to happen through legislation, which will require the community, the businesses, the people in this room, and everybody else to advocate. I'm telling you, if we crowd the legislature and we push for having the arts in the classroom all the time, just like how they had the Chamorro language brought in, it can happen. That's one. And then the second thing is, in Dededo, what do you call that big sports facility where you see United Airlines over there? What's the name of that? It's the soccer field. Now, how was that funded? That's privately funded because the community as a whole felt it was so important that people like Dr. Castro, people like us in the room are willing to put and invest in it because, well, sometimes unfortunately the government can be as fast as molasses, you know? So we as a community can put it together and it can happen, but it does have to have a very concerted effort. Maybe it'll start from this room. So research and lobbying, advocacy, and it could be just private sector community, power.
I'm sorry, but I'm going to add a little bit to that because I am a public school band director and I have an anecdote for you. At the beginning of this year, I was also helping with school scheduling. And one of the students who was placed in band came up to me and said, Ms. Matanani, I really need to transfer out of your class because I need an elective that is useful to my life. Just like that, with that face. And I, shock and horror inside, but of course my face steely. And I looked at her and I said, that is the most ignorant thing I have ever heard, child. But yes, I will give you your transfer. And her face, each time she sees my band play, her friends and her pre-AP classmates, I see that look. She can't look at me in the face. Because my band students also excel at other things. Guam history, a lot of them go off island. ACB, we were just announced as the champions. And the Clutch was one of my best saxophone players. So she and I have a strange relationship, but it pleases me very much to see her in the hallway and say, hi. I will tell you the most immediate thing that public school teachers know for sure. To get this ball running, parents have to demand that band programs exist, that choirs exist. It's the parents, immediately, because our administrators and our board, they're chicken against parents. They see a parent marching up saying, why does this school have a music program and this school doesn't? Because you know what, I'm going to so-and-so senator, I'm gonna start talking about this more, I'm gonna bang on doors. It really starts with the parents and that attitude from that child. She had to have learned that somewhere. Her parents don't value, they don't know. So the data, the research, the involvement in church, all of this needs to sit a little bit better with parents. They need to understand where it comes from. And then I think, pardon me, butts will move. They will move because for parents, those administrators, they're like, oh, angry parent, and they move. Thank you. So I would like to talk a bit about your careers. And like I said, maybe you have answered it in part of your talk, but maybe can expound upon some of it. How about if you could choose any other career? If you could choose any other, what would that be and why?
Sure. I've been telling my husband this for many years. I would really like to be a manager in Home Depot. I love construction. I was a board member, and I'm very active in the National Association of Women in Construction. My father's a carpenter, and only today I'm learning the value of carpentry. You know how expensive carpentry work is, plumbing work is, electrical work is. But yeah, I'd love to, because I still recall many moons ago, my dad would go into Ace Hardware. And as a little girl, 5 years old, he'd drag me in, he wouldn't drag me. I would jump into his truck, and he would leave me alone in Ace Hardware, and I would go down every aisle to try to figure out, what is this thing for? And yeah, I would love to work in Home Depot. Thank you.
Amazing. Genuinely, I don't think I'd change anything about my life the way that it is now. I know that a lot of people that have seen me, that see how much I do, how musically involved I am, they always get very, very surprised that I wasn't a music major in college or anything, because I can play music in almost every section of the orchestra except for brass. I play piano, I play flute, I play violin, I play percussion, I've played handbells, I've sung in choir, right, all of these things. And yet, I'm a medical lab science major. I'm a med tech. I don't know what to tell you. And I don't know whether it's how young I am, that the burden of work has not quite gotten to me yet. But I also don't think that it was a coincidence that God put me here. I don't think it was a coincidence that God placed me in a path where I would, firstly, not only just go into medical laboratory science, but then come to Guam, and whoopsie doodles, there's an opening for me at the clinic that my mom was working at. How convenient, right? I will say this. The fact that I'm able to do something medical which ministers to people in our community that need my services, the services of the laboratory of the clinic that I work at, and also do something else that I'm passionate about, is really nice, because I honestly don't know how my life would have gone had I turned what I was considering to be my passion into a career. Some people are lucky. Some people get to be able to do their passion as a career and make it work for them. I don't know if I would have been one of those individuals, but I am glad for what I have now. And that is to be able to work, do something that I enjoy, minister to people by working and providing healthcare for them in areas where I'm needed, and then also be able to minister musically in places where I'm needed as well. So in a way, I kind of get the best of both worlds. So it's not for everybody. Maybe for some other people, it is strictly healthcare. It is strictly whatever they want to go to. Maybe for some other people, it is strictly music or whatever it is that they want to go to, that they're passionate about. For me, I don't think I would change a thing.
I think I'm the same way. I don't think I would change anything. I love what I do. It's very fulfilling. It's great to help people, especially when they're dying and you're there and you're the only thing that can keep them alive. There's nothing better than that. If I had to change anything, maybe I would do a different fellowship. I love ear surgery. I do it well, but I would love to be even better than I am now. If I had to change and become another type of surgeon, maybe I would do orthopedic surgery. So in other words, I would stay a surgeon because there's nothing better. I don't think there's anything better for me, at least personally. I think that's my calling. I think God wanted me to become a surgeon and wanted me to become an ENT surgeon here in Guam.
Thank you. And one last fun question. This is about your music. What is your favorite type of music? I mean, it's a little difficult, especially when you're as eclectic as Hannah. Or as Dr. Castro. I mean, I heard heavy metal in there and I heard him play jazz. I don't know which one he likes better, but I'm curious.
My favorite music is anything that my two boys play. Anything Xander plays or anything Sebastian plays. There's nothing better.
This question feels like a slight specifically in my direction. I'm classically trained, so I learned my most rigorous piano studies, I guess I could say, were studying classical music. So that is where I get my technique from. But the things that really bring me joy in music have no genre. And I am as I grow in my musical experience, I am coming to discover that. I love playing classical music. I love playing jazz. I love playing music for church, religious, spirituals. I love singing. I love, I even had like a K-pop stint when I was in when I was in high school. So I think as long as you're keeping your heart open and letting influence come in and using that to give glory to God and realize that we are creatives. We are people who are we are artists. We are musicians. I think you can find enjoyment in anything if you keep your heart open that way.
The question is about favorite. Wow. Well, I will tell you, I think I will just reflect on what I've been playing very nice now in my home. It has been Spanish guitar. Yes. And a little bit of Gypsy King in between, and Pink.
A woman of taste.
So thank you, panelists. That was very interesting. I love it. Before we conclude our public talk, we would like to thank all of our collaborators for making today's event possible. And before I list them again, I also want to thank the spouses and family members of these panelists who continue to support them. So once again, our collaborators include the Micronesia Mall, Guam Association for Career and Technical Education, or Guam ACTE, and PBS Guam. Look out for featured stories of our panelists in the weeks and months to come. If you would like to nominate a local accomplished musician who currently works in a non-musical field, please feel free to contact us and let us know. Our expo concludes at 8 p.m., but first, we will have what everyone has been waiting for, our performances. Stick around, meet our exhibitors and panelists, and ask questions. Thank you for your attendance today, and good evening.